Shalom and shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Trumpet's Call. I am AmarYaH. I pray that you are holding on to faith, amunah, and holding on to hope during these times. Thank you for joining me once again on the channel and for another video. Today's video, I will share with you a couple of dreams that the Most High granted me and the interpretation of the dreams, as the interpretation is a message for the nation of Yasharal. And I pray that you will heed the warning that is contained within this message to the nation. So let's get started. I'm going to begin first with the first dream, in which I have entitled The Persistent Pet Chicken. The first dream. In the dream, I was walking back to my old house in our old neighborhood. I had just come from school. Apparently, when I went to school, something happened so that I could not attend that day. I do not remember what it was. It could have been that classes were canceled, or that there was some obstacle placed in my way so that I could not attend, such as traffic or something of that nature. I was walking down the street, and one of my neighbors opened their front door, and a chicken came out of their house. A little chicken. It was not quite full grown, nor was it a chick. It was difficult to determine what it was. It was like a little pullet, because it wasn't yet old enough to lay eggs. It immediately ran over to me and began to fluff up its wings around my feet, and it tried to climb into one of my shoes, and at least one of my shoes. And I told the chick to go away, and I kept walking. And I thought that the chick would go back to its owner's house and go back to the front door and peck so they could be allowed inside. But for some reason, the chick followed me, and it kept following me, and it followed me home. And for whatever reason, in this dream, I could not enter my house from the front door. I had to go into my garage, where there are some really tall stairs, in which I entered the house through a little small door at the top of the stairs. Now, normally in this old house, the house that I lived in before the house I'm living in now, that was not the case. We always entered the house through the front door or through the garage door, but this was a door at the top of some steep stairs. So I started climbing the stairs to get into the house. I was tired. I was fatigued because I had expended a lot of energy to attempt to go to school on that day and didn't quite make it. So I was tired, and I was on foot. I was walking. As I was climbing the stairs, I noticed that this little chick is still following me, and I thought to myself, why in the world is this chick still following me? It doesn't seem like this is just curiosity. This seems intentional. So it continued to follow me as I climbed the stairs. So when I reached the top, the chick was near the top as well, and I did not want this chick coming inside of my house. So I did not go inside. I stayed near the top, and I had left on my stairs a bottle of open liquid. It looked like some colored liquid, either the color of turmeric or the color of beets. There was some healthy juice. It could have been red, it could have been deep orange. I don't remember which, but it was colored. It had a color. And I had left the cap off of the bottle, and in the commotion, by trying to prevent the chicken from coming any closer to the door, the bottle fell and spilled. And I was able to grab the bottle and secure the top on the bottle before all of it spilled. So not quite a quarter of the bottle spilled on the stairs, and some on the chicken, but it hung on. So I'm at the top of the stairs, ready to get inside. I believe I was able to get my backpack inside, because remember, I had just come from school, and I'm watching the chicken to see what it would do next. I kept telling the chicken to go away. Suddenly, the stairs disappeared. I was at the very tip-top stair, so it did not go stair. It was more like the door jamb to the door. So I was at the very top, and the stairs disappeared. Not that they went away, but they went flat. Like suddenly all of the angles, all of the right angles in the stairs went away, and the stairs just became flat so that if somebody was on it, they would just slide all the way down. But the chick was hanging on. I don't know how, but it was hanging on, but it wasn't able to advance any further because it didn't have any stairs to climb. So it was just hanging on. It was covered in this substance, and I was able to, I believe, go inside the house as the dream ended. And then I woke up. The Most High gave me another dream right after. These dreams were back to back, probably within minutes of one another. And in the second dream, I was with my family members where I grew up. Not in my old neighborhood, but where I grew up as a child. And we were all gathered together. And it was decided that we should share a meal together, have fellowship. And my sister wanted us all to eat together. She's a very loving person and loves to cook, loves to make sure everybody's happy and well fed and all that. And so I went to the kitchen because I had some fish. I had brought fish, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough for everybody. Because when I originally looked at the fish, I thought that there were only 2 or 3 pieces. And so I went to go check, and I was able to scrounge up, I don't know how, more fish. So then I had a plate full of fish and enough fish for everyone who wanted to join in, because we had other things as well. And then my sister came in, and she was looking for a big pot so that she could make some sort of rice dish or macaroni and cheese or something. So we were planning the meal, okay? We were getting everything together, and it was going to be a good time. But it became apparent to me that something was happening within my family. There was some sort of schism. I have 2 cousins who are like mothers / aunts to me. They're on age or similar age to my mother. So they're probably about 10 years younger than my mother. So they're older aunts, kind of, even though they're cousins. And we all get together when we go home. We would get together at one of their houses or my mom's house. We all get together. We don't ever keep ourselves separate from one another. But for whatever reason, when I was home, those 2 aunts, either they weren't talking to one another, which is rare because they get along very well. They get along like sisters. They are first cousins. Their mothers were sisters. And so for them to not get along, it just seemed really odd. But for whatever reason, their children and their grandchildren were congregating at their individual houses, and my mother's children and her grandchildren, we were like, well, where do we go? Do we go to the one cousin's house, or do we go to the other cousin's house? No one was telling us that we couldn't come over. They just didn't want us to all come together. They wanted us to be separated in that way. And I don't know if it was intentional, but something had happened to lead people to this conclusion that we should come together separately like this in each other's houses. So we're preparing food. We want everyone to come over and have a big old party with everybody, but they weren't willing to do that. And so I was standing outside, and I saw one of my younger cousins who was related to one of my other aunts. I said, oh, hey, and I called his name, and I said, hey, it's so good to see you. I've been waiting to see you, and we've been making plans to get together, so now we can come together. I found some fish, we're going to be making this food. It's going to be a great time. We can come together. And he said, oh, man, I would love that, but I can't because I have to go to my grandma's house, and I can't because I have to go there. And I was like, well, we can't all get together? He's like, no, sorry, no, I have to go over there. So I was like, okay. So I was disappointed, and then I became very frustrated. Near tears frustrated. So my older sister, she was in the room, and I was talking to her, and I said, you know what, this makes me so angry. It makes me so frustrated. I said, I don't know what's happening here, but our family's splintered like this, and I don't know why we can't all come together. What's happening here? What happened? Why is this going on? And, she was just shrugging her shoulders as if, don't know what's happening. But for whatever reason, the whole family did not want to get together. Everybody was all splintered in their own groups. So I felt disconnected from the whole. And I did not want it to just be us coming together and then them over there and then them over there. I wanted everybody to come together. So at the end of this dream, I ended frustrated because I wanted to be with my family, but they didn't all want to be with one another. So I woke up, and At first, I didn't remember the dreams, and I knew I'd had them. And so I prayed and asked the Most High to bring them back to my remembrance. And He brought both of them back to my remembrance. All praises to the Most High Yahuwah. And then He told me, He said, the dreams are one. Meaning the dreams they mean the same thing, even though they're different dreams. And that the interpretation for one is the interpretation for the other. And they work together to tell a story of what He was communicating through the dreams. Whenever me and others, some of you as well, dream about your old family houses, your old family relationships, your old neighborhoods, things like that, typically it's either talking about your family dynamic going back, maybe your ancestors, or it's talking about the house of Yasharal. In this instance, the dream was about the house of Yasharal. He said that in the first dream, the chicken was a pet project. You know how people have their pet projects? Well, this was a pet chicken, okay? And so he said the chicken was indicative of a pet project, and that there are many people who have their pet projects and their pet peeves who separate themselves from one another for the purpose of coming together only with people who think the way they think, act the way they act, have in common the things that they deem worthy. And it's not necessarily according to righteousness. It's according to their quote-unquote pet peeves or their pet projects, right? Some people only want to speak the particular type of Hebrew that uses W. And other people shun those people. Or some people come together because they believe a certain particular doctrine. Or others shun others who believe that doctrine and won't congregate and fellowship with them. So on and so forth. Now this is within the nation of Yasharal. So he says people are choosing their pet projects, and they're choosing to separate and isolate themselves based on their pet project. These are both of the dreams coming together now, okay? So for me, I was going home, and in my house, I would typically use the front door when I lived in that house. But in this dream, I had to climb stairs to get to the front door, to get to the door, the secret door. This is indicative of being in the secret place. And that in the secret place, in this place of intimacy with the Father, there's no place for pet peeves or pet projects. There's no place for it. There's no place for disunity, okay? That the Most High will move against that. He will move against that. The drink falling on the stairs when it's indicative of a flood of judgment coming against those who would seek a pet project over intimacy with the Most High and with His children. So this chicken is indicative of a ruach of dissension. A ruach of dissension and disconnection and discord. A ruach of dissension, disagreement, discord. Okay? It flew out of this house and it followed me home, and it wanted to enter into the house so that it could sow its seeds in the house. And many people have allowed this ruach of dissension into their houses, and now the nation of Yasharal is splintered and scattered, and they cannot share a meal together and have true fellowship. I would also add that the presence of the chicken initially trying to flutter around my feet and displace my foot from my shoe, trying to get into my shoe, is indicative of the demonic, element of discord and disagreement, disharmony, all of those things, trying to affect my walk, okay? My walk in the faith. And so that's what it does. It comes to affect your walk so that you're walking according to your own understanding, and you're walking according to your own appeal and what appeals to you and what seems good in your eyes and what feels like community among you and somebody else that you're gathering with, and not according to coming together with the whole as the Father has instructed us to do. In the second dream, I wanted to get together with all our family members, but there was disagreement. For whatever reason, I don't even know what it was, but there was dissension, there was discord, and we couldn't all come together. The Father wanted us to come together and have a meal, have fellowship with one another. And notice, the fish were multiplied. This is indicative of the loaves and the fishes being multiplied when Yahushua brought together the nation of Yasharal and had them sit down on the grass and be fed. The Father wants to multiply His barakah and His presence and His anointing in us and on us and through us, but not in the presence of dissension, not in the presence of discord. If we're truly going to come together as a nation, not just a bunch of factions, that's the word the Father brought to me, factions, not just a bunch of factions, we're going to have to lay aside and boot out and kick out this chicken, this pet peeve, this pet project, all of the things that we have held on to. We're going to have to let those things go and embrace unity, coming together and sharing a love feast, a meal together, and allow the Father to then multiply all of the barakah that He has in store for us and intended for us. But it will not come in the presence of disunity. When my family members in the second dream would not get together, I was ready to leave. And in that role, it was almost as if I was acting in the role of the Ruach HaKadosh, who was saying, in the presence of disunity, I will not engage. The Ruach will not engage in the presence of disunity. It's the whole nation. And so His eyes are upon His nation, but His nation is splintered and scattered, and they are organizing themselves according to factions or according to what they did in Christianity, denominations. They're all separate. And the power and the might and the barakah of the Most High Yahuwah will not flow in the presence of disunity. But those who desire to come together and desire to be part of the whole, they desire the intimacy with the Father and with one another. The Father's Ruach will be poured out upon those whose hearts are open to unity, even if they can't find anyone to be united with them. So this is a warning for us. The dream was given twice as an indication of the seriousness of this matter. We need power. We need power. We're going to need power for what's coming. And that plays into the dream I had about fighting giants. We're going to need power. And we're not going to have the power that we need if we keep placing ourselves in positions where the tap of the Most High's grace is being turned off to us because we are seeking instead to choose up and choose sides. I am of Paul. I am of Apollos. I am of Peter. I am of James. We can't do that. We can't do that. We have to come together under the banner of Mashiach. He is our leader. Under the banner of Mashiach. Okay? We have to come together under Him and drop any and all idea that somehow it's about this particular fellowship group, over this particular fellowship group, over that assembly, over that gathering, over that church. That's the wrong idea. The idea is we're all seeking the Most High and climbing Yaqub's ladder to get into intimacy with the Father so that we might be baruched and have the power and the provision that we need for the days ahead. Hallelujah. Yahuwah be praised. Additionally, the Father told me that there are revelations to be given, to be had, to be experienced. There are things that need to be released from the heavenly realms, from the heavenly vaults, so to speak, to us, for us to have understanding during this time, and that we need to, quote unquote, go to school, that we need to sit at His feet, and we need to learn of Him and learn things that we need to know for the times that we're in. And He's willing to reveal to us these things, but we need to attend ourselves to diligent study in His presence. We can't be so bent on the faction that we're a part of that we deny time in His presence. Okay? It's important that we not allow these things to cause us to separate and isolate ourselves from the source of our understanding and the source of our power. But we all should be in school right now, whether we're in school in our private time with the Father, or whether we're in school with a fellowship that you fellowship with, we should be in the Father's school, learning of Him right now. And it's very important that we guard against feelings of exclusivity, that somehow I know more, I'm more important, I've got more of the anointing, our fellowship is better than that fellowship. We've got to guard against that. We are a people coming together, seeking after the Most High. And others are doing the same thing. Some are not. Some are joined together for other reasons, and the Most High will judge that. But for our purposes, we want to keep our hearts open and not allow pride to come in and make us feel as if we're more exclusive, more anointed, more anything than anybody else. We're just grateful that we get to come together and fellowship. Okay, so we have to guard against pride. We have to guard against dissension, discord, and against this feeling of exclusivity. Okay? Well, I thank you for joining me once again on the channel, brothers and sisters. And I pray that you would take these dreams and their interpretations to heart, and that we might right ourselves, that we might correct ourselves in the Father's presence and in His sight, so that He might pour upon us what we're going to need in terms of power and authority and position for the days to come. Shalom and shalom, brothers and sisters.